Right. Hello, everyone, to the next episode of ASEM Lifelong Learning Hub, where we will invite each members of ASEM Lifelong Learning Hub to come here and to have a talk with us about being a researcher of lifelong learning. So today we have Dr. Zan Chen from Research Network 3. Dr. Zan Chen, welcome aboard. Do you want to take a
Thank you,
minute
Kwon.
to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Chen Zan from the Institute for Adult Learning in Singapore University of Social Sciences, and our area is really looking into um, the continuing education and training in Singapore and also worldwide, and also looking into how learning and the skills development leads to, for instance, labor market outcomes as well as personal well-being. We also look at pedagogies that improve adult education and also adult education professionalization.
Right. I remember when I was fixing some of, I don't know. I remember when uh, I look at the ASM website to before working here, I going through all of everyone's profile, and your name was on the top of Research Network 3, and you and it said that you have been leading so many flagship research about adult education and lifelong learning, specifically with the adult education. So, would you want to share some of your work, some of your most, some of the work that you are most proud of up until now?
Sure. Actually, as I mentioned, we do conduct research on adult learning and also looking into the ecosystem of lifelong learning. So, for instance, one of the projects that I led is looking at the training and adult education landscape in Singapore. So, how we do it is we actually do a nationwide survey to understand what's the practice and the profile of our training providers. Training providers would mean all the private training organizations that offer training to adults and the workers, and also those um, 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 public sector training organizations, the in-house training providers, as well as those institutes of higher learning, because they are also tasked to support continuing education and training, and also in-house training units. So we understand their challenges, understand the business. For instance, the business strategies as well as the innovation practices, as well, and also understand the challenges that they face. So we feedback to our government agencies and also come up with reports to support our practitioners as well. So that's one part of it. And another thing I think we've done is with adult educator. For instance, during COVID, when COVID hit us during the lockdown period, we actually managed to get responses from over 1,500 adult educators in 3 weeks' time to respond to our online survey to try to understand their well-being, try to understand the professional development needs, and try to understand the changes in how they deal with the rapid move to online learning. So that's quite inspiring, and the response we get and support we get from the adult educators were amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was a 1,500 response in 3 weeks.
Yes.
It's either
Yes.
that a lot of adults are so willing to change the adult education, or the research team is doing their best to do the research. Oh, with so many, you were saying about the challenges, and you were saying about the innovation in practices. I have so many questions for you, actually. But first off, how would you how would you describe briefly, to explain to the person who not really understand about adult education, how would you describe to them the image of adult education in Singapore or in Asia as a whole?
Um, I can say on behalf of Singapore, because we do research into that area, I would say that in Singapore we are very lucky that we have very supportive government that values skills development and the workforce development. So we have this skills future movement that every Singaporean could have $500 to take on any course that is related to their work or personal interest. And for mid-careerists, like 40 years and above, we have additional $500 for them. So yeah, this skills credit it is kind of incentivizing um, the whole population to go on learning. So that is one part. And another part is we have the skills framework that was developed by the industry, by the government, by the union, by also by the together with the training providers to help us to understand the needs of the industry because it's changing so rapidly. We would like to know what's going on in the industry, what kind of skills are needed. Therefore, this can help to inform the design of the training programs so that they can provide more targeted services. Mm.
Yeah.
And for the adult educators, our Institute for Adult Learning is we train the trainers and we provide
Yes.
professional development support to our adult educators community. So we have a lot of resources and programs to them. We have continued professional development programs, and also we run webinars and we run challenge events to bring the community together to solve problems. Mm.
Mm. You were hitting on the nail right there that you do research because you want to see what changes and what is the actual need of the current time. I was having a conversation with Seamus a couple of days ago, and he talked about the same thing about things change. And would you want to give an example of like if you compare adult education of Singapore now versus I don't know a couple of years ago, what changed? What has changed? And what do you think that will change in the future?
That's a very good question. Um, I just take one example. So if we look at the narrative of training, a few years back, we will say training is more of classroom lecturer or the trainer delivering
Yes.
content to the learner. But
Yes.
now, if we talk about training, I think the discourse is changing from training more towards learning,
Mm.
and that training itself carries different modes. We talk about workplace learning, talk about learning happening at work and for the work, and also we talk about online learning, digitalized learning, mobile
Mm.
phones. So the concept about learning is different, and the people um, are more well versed in this, and I think this course change also helps to shift some of our behaviors and practice in conducting training and
Oh, right.
learning. Yeah, it's never a lecturer to students, this content downloading or acquisition kind of model, more towards a dialogical, inquiry-based learning. So we encourage the agency, the learners take their own agency and
Mm.
empower them to make their own judgments, to make sense of what's going on in the learning, and then learn to apply what they've learned in their own context. So authenticity. So
Mm-hmm.
we think learning should be authentic. We
Mm-hmm.
take real life examples and problems and try to solve them in a more authentic settings.
Yes.
Therefore, they can relate them better. So those are the changes we've seen.
Yes. That was only one of the many, many examples, I
Yes.
think. So,
Yeah.
with now combining with what you have told me, usually you received a lot of data, a lot of response, like like the 1500 response in 3 weeks. It still scares me in a sense. Along with so many, I'd say, uh, variables along during the research. How do you, beside from taking surveys, right? How do you keep up with the latest developments and trend in your own field?
I would say I'm very lucky to be with IAL Institute for Adult Learning because we do establish very good relationship with researchers around the world. We collaborate with UNESCO, with OECD, and
Oh
we run
yeah.
projects together with them. For instance, PIAC studies, and also we invite well-renowned researchers to IL to be our visiting fellow,
Mhm,
visiting researcher. So through these exchanges, it's great opportunity for us to learn.
mhm,
Yeah, and another thing we're venturing into is more of looking into multidisciplinary research. We know that yeah,
disciplinary.
that means
Oh,
research in incorporating researchers from different fields. You know,
oh,
what we yeah, there is an
oh,
initiative that
yeah.
we are just started is to
Mhm,
what we call adult learning collaboratory. So we aim to incorporate insights from neurosciences to understand what's going on in the brain, and also computational sciences to look at big data, um, AI or generative AI, then also incorporates the science of learning, psychology, social sciences together to understand adult learning more holistically. Yeah, so we are trying to carry out experiments that to look at what's going on within our brain while adults are learning. For instance, do they make decisions differently compared with younger ones? Or another area we're looking into is digital skills development of mature workers. So mature workers would mean 40 years and above, and it could range up to 70, 80 years old. So do they learn digital skills differently, or is it more of a confidence issue rather than a brain biological issue
oh,
towards learning? Yeah, what kind of motivations are there for them to learn, and how compared with the younger cohorts,
mhm,
how they learn differently and what kind of support or
mhm.
intervention could be designed to support them better. So those are the areas we're very excited about and we're venturing into.
That is actually blow my mind a little bit because that means you are actually that means you are actually, how should I say this, that you're having like a cross functioning research, I say, or collaboration, that you're using neuroscience, computer science, all for the adult education.
Yeah.
Wow. Would that be a little bit, how should I say this? That means that you will have a lot of criteria when doing research, that you will have to consider so many different aspects to condense it into several minute recommendations for adult education. How, now this is, I hope that I can ask an advice from you as a young researcher. How do you uh how do you deal with so many aspects and so many different point of views of science like that? That is
Mm.
very hard. I say that.
You're absolutely right because researchers in certain discipline we think ways in certain ways. So it's not easy to bring everyone together to co-solve a problem. Um, I guess the key thing and um the the gem of this innovation, we call it a collaboratory, is putting experiment at the center, and we engage our potential end user of the solution or adult learning innovation from the very beginning. So that so that means we secure the commitment from the very beginning.
Okay.
And we have a real problem to solve. So then we bring the community, bring the researchers to come in and the scientists to come in to see here is the problem that industry needs to be solved. Then how can we go about it? There are a lot of networking, brainstorming, co-working together, and then a lot of perspective taking, as you mentioned. Yes, stakeholder engagement. So that is challenging, but on the other hand, it is quite interesting and inspiring all the time when we talk to different disciplines. Wow, it's a totally new word for us at the beginning, but eventually we can start to talk their language. So that's really part of learning process we are going through, and this keeps up to date.
Oh wow, I am so curious. Actually, was there any situation while you were doing research? I know that it's still experimenting, but was there any situation where opinions collide with each other? How should I say this? When there is
De-
opinions that go against each other, was there
Definitely.
any situation like that?
Definitely.
Oh
Well,
God.
we work in any teams, there
Mm,
would be disagreement. There
mhm.
might be conflicts as well. But
Yes.
I guess the key thing is the kind of openness that we bring to the community.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
trust that each and everyone can contribute, and we're committed to share what we have.
mhm,
And it is along the way
mhm,
we build this trust into this partnership, and
mhm,
that actually um, is it's never easy, but I guess to for the partnership really to be long term and to be to benefit each other,
mhm.
then we should find a common goal together. There is a
Yes,
mutual goal for us
the
to
common
achieve.
goal.
Yeah, and
Mm,
there are mutual benefits to all the parties,
mhm.
and there are also I would say um, this emotional side of
Oh yes,
people. Yes,
yes, because
so
we are
it's
working
the
with human.
yes, the emotional attachment between the partners among the community members is
Mm,
very crucial.
mm,
And I think actually along the way, we start to build some identity around it. We are
mhm.
proud to become a member of this collaboratory
Yeah,
as we see
definitely.
the significance, importance of it. Yeah.